What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Black Belt Business Podcast. I'm your host, Eliot Marshall, and it is my goal with each episode of this podcast to share the stories, strategies, tactics, tools, and resources that will help you establish or grow your martial arts school. The Black Belt Business Podcast is brought to you by Easton.Online. You can find all of our digital courses, martial arts curriculums, and resources designed to help you enhance your business at Easton.Online. So without further ado, let's jump into the episode. Jordan, what up?
What up?
Phipps, how are you?
Hola.
Good to see you. Good to see everyone. Maybe we should move this. Did you fill it up? Yeah, we'll move that out of the way. Guys, let's just do a little check-in. I think it's important, right? This is something that we encourage with our staff. It's something that we encourage in every meeting that we hold. It's just some type of like, how are you? Okay? So let's just kind of share what that looks like for a little bit. Let's go personal success, right? We start every meeting that we ever have with some type of personal or business success. So let's just kind of demonstrate what that looks like. Phipps, what you got, man? How you been?
Good. Getting ready to compete again in June. So a couple weeks into preparing for that. But I personally love and hate camp because eventually you're just like, I'm ready for this to be over. But I love it because as I have to fit in all these workouts and all these training sessions, everything else just like I have to be tight. Like my schedule has to be tight. I have to be locked in. So I'm better as an employee. I'm better at my job because I'm getting ready for this fight. And to make sure I can train as much as I need to, I have to be locked in everywhere else. So it feels really good to be locked in. And then it feels good toward the end of camp to be like the best version of yourself. So I enjoy those things.
I'm going to piggyback on you a little bit with, or just, something I saw on Instagram, which I had this love-hate relationship with this kind of stuff. Like, it was this, man's man. You know how those guys are on Instagram, like, talking about success and being a man.
Oh, like the manosphere.
Yeah, And, this guy was like, my wife came up and she grabbed my love handles. And she goes, "You're slipping a little, babe." And he's like, I took, like, personal offense to that. He's like, but then I cleaned it up. And once I cleaned that up, everything else in my life got cleaned up. So it's kind of like what you're saying, right? Like without the shaming of having a fucking love handle, I think, as we age, it does fucking happen. We don't have to look, like, but like I just because I hate this, like, be a fucking man, have a fucking 10-pack your whole fucking life, like that shit just goes away. You start hitting your 40s and that shit just goes away, right? You want to have a good meal every once in a while.
Unless you're Mike.
Well, Mike is a freak.
Exactly. Unless you're Mike.
There's some freaks out there.
Yeah.
Right? And because Mike, even without this diet that he's doing now, he was still jacked, right? Like, he's just genetically gifted.
Yeah.
But I think the hard part a lot of times, and maybe this is important for us jiu-jitsu, like, to hear, like, because you see so much of it, man, you're not going to look like a fucking MMA fighter. Mm-hmm. You're not going to look like Buchecha and fucking these guys your whole fucking life. Like, you're going to age. Mm-hmm. And if you age naturally, that tends to go. Now, that doesn't mean you can't be healthy. Like, there's a difference between being a fat ass, which we totally disagree with as jiu-jitsu instructors, right? Or Muay Thai instructors, right? You've got to be in shape, unless there's something wrong with you, obviously, right? Like, but you, you're not gonna be jacked like Mike your whole fucking life. So anyway,
Unfortunately.
good for you. When do you fight?
It's at the TBA tournament in Iowa, so it'll be the 18th through the 22nd.
All right.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Jordan, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Life's great.
That's it? No check-in?
Well, yeah. I mean, dude, it's there's so many cool things to point to. Life's good. I'm really stoked I got over this weird stomach bug I had last weekend. It was like, couldn't really eat much for like 4 days, and I was like, fuck my life, what's going on,
That's the only thing that, like, takes me down.
What?
The stomach. If I get the stomach, I'm fucking done.
Yeah, dude, it was bad. I didn't know what was going on. I don't know if I got like some bad food. Like, I don't know if one of my meal prep meals like went bad and I contaminated, and I have no idea. I suspect it might have been that, but that bummed me out. But yeah, it felt glorious to like just eat again all day and not get nauseous, so that was great. And then business-wise, man, I'm feeling really good about kids program director stuff right now. Like, man, been really having a great time working with Phipps and shooting the new kids curriculum. That's been great, and we've been working on some other projects too, and I feel like I've got a lot of momentum there. And guest taught a class in Boulder last night, and it went really well, and I'm really just excited about the potential of that program and the way that program's shaping up. So yeah, man, just a lot of good stuff going on right now. I feel really good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. I'm riding high on my oldest kid, Kanan.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm a basketball coach now. Actually, I don't coach basketball at all, but he and I are identical. You know, and I've said this a lot. I think I've said this a lot to you guys.
Yeah.
Everywhere where I'm great, he's a little better. You know, and everywhere where all of my drawbacks, he has them too. But the nice part throughout his life is we've been able to realize that really early, and I can help him, like his anxiety, the way his mind works, like, and with basketball now, you know, he's really just so focused and so in, like working his ass off, and it's starting to pay off, right? And it's been a couple of years of this now, like a year and a half. And, you know, it's kind of nice to see him really, really hooping. And for you non-hoopers, hooping means playing basketball really well. So he's been hooping, and man, I'm still riding high off this one comment he said to me, because, like, you know, when I retired from fighting, and you're not the world champion, and you don't have millions of dollars, and you have concussions and body hurts and sadness, and anybody that's ever retired from a pro sport knows what I'm saying when you're not Tom Brady, when they don't make roasts of you on fucking Netflix, you know, to try to make, you know, which was hilarious, by the way.
I saw some of it.
They've been hilarious. Like, most of us end with sadness, you know, especially in fighting. You wonder what it was for. You know, you're like, why the fuck, what, you know? Like, you have these thoughts of, like, what was all this suffering about? And I've been able to really help my kid, like, build a mind. And he said to me after one of his tournaments, we were driving home, he goes, Dad, I don't know how anybody could ever do this without somebody like you in their life. And that just took all of that away. Like, all of it. All of my, like, what the fuck was this for? Even though I don't really have too much of that, because we have the schools and that's, you know, but any of it just literally fucking disappeared. And it was like the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me, like, without a doubt, especially because it's my kid.
Yeah.
You know, like,
I'm sure every parent wants that to happen, whatever version.
Yeah, whatever
it is
version.
for them.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was the most amazing thing, like ever. So I'm still feeling really good about that.
Good job.
And I'm trying to still be really hard on him too, though.
Yeah.
You know, like, because I'm like, oh, it's work, you know? Because, like, that's what it is, though.
Yeah.
It is, like, you know?
Right.
Like, I am very demanding of him. Like, if he says he's chasing this, he's chasing this, you know? So, and it's hard to balance that with then a 10-year-old in Simon. Because, like, you know, you can't quite do that with a 10-year-old yet, right? Like, it's levels to it, you know?
Right, there are levels.
Because you still want you want a 10-year-old to still be having a ton of fun.
Yes.
You know?
Right.
And learning and getting better and being competitive because he wants to win. So, yeah, it's a good balance. But things are going really well. So that's what a segue or a check-in looks like, right? Like, and we really suggest doing this every single time you meet with your staff, right? Even with the one-on-ones, right? Even when you meet your staff, like, don't jump into shit, you know? Don't just jump into shit. And what do you guys think that this segue does? Like, what does it do when you're talking with somebody or you're talking with a group of people? What do you think some of the purposes of this segue are?
Well, like, number one, it breaks the ice. So whether you're in a meeting with a bunch of people who you're really comfortable with and familiar with, or you're in a meeting with someone you just met, like, it puts you on common ground, right? You're sharing something about yourself. You know, like what you just shared is pretty personal. Jordan and I were a little bit more surface level, but still you all know more about me because of the success that I shared and the reason, the fact I even felt like that was a success. You know, we had our HQ meeting on Monday, and we're bringing in a fractional CFO to help us get all of our money right. And
fractional CFO, real fast, just so you understand that. A CFO works for a company full-time? They get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars normally. A fractional CFO is for smaller companies, which we still are, right? When you look at things like this, they work a fraction of the time and you pay them a fraction of the...
Correct. Correct. But he was there. And so
Yeah.
he heard all of us share our success. He shared his success. And it just helped kind of integrate him in this group that, we're a tight-knit group. We meet every week. We were always boxing. And so he was able to kind of come in and immediately find this common ground. And then it makes it so the meeting's not just like, it's not just business. Like every time it's like, get in here and we're just going to talk about the things we need to talk about. Like we connect on a personal level and then we are in a much better place to do business together.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna. You said it. I was gonna add it. It's everybody wants to be seen and heard, and if you just jump right into business, then it kind of sends the message without ever saying it that you don't care about the people behind the business, and especially if you are in the people business, which we are. I think caring about your people who work in that business is important.
Yeah.
And when you make that a priority, like, hey, we're here to have a business meeting. First, we're going to check on you. I think that sends that message loud and clear.
Yep. And I know you do this, Jordan. Phipps, I've never been in a meeting where you're running the meeting and I'm kind of running the podcast, right? Mm-hmm. But you don't just go, okay, yours. At each person's story, I stopped and checked in a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? And then you actually make it like personal and not just like, oh, we have to do this for part of the meeting. And we talked about the guy on social media, whose wife grabbed his love handles, but you relate in some way, right? Jordan, we relate in some way. So you don't just it's not run like a business. It's not run like, oh, I have to do this, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And this really helps. And it really helps is one of the things you don't want, for example, when you're talking with your staff or things like that, is you don't want them to not speak to you. And if you just jump right into things or run it, even in your segue, just go, okay, your turn. They like, oh, okay, I have a minute to share what I want, and then I get off the table, right? Like,
sure.
You want them later on when the meeting comes, things come up in the meeting, if they disagree, to speak up.
Right.
Like I'm the boss in a way. You guys fucking disagree with me 90% of the time, and speak it.
Right.
You're never. I hope you never feel like, oh, I can't say this to Eliot.
Right.
So, that was just a quick little blurb of segue. To like throw in there. I don't think we've ever demonstrated what it looked like, or I know we talk about it a lot in our affiliate curriculum, which is now fully out. I explain it, but I know we don't have an example of it. And I think that was just a great way to start the podcast. We haven't really checked in a while with each other because we've just been busy.
Yep.
Yeah. So, guys, we talked about kids a lot last time.
Right.
Let's shift towards Phipps a little bit.
Sure.
In his department. But you have a lot of experience in this and too, in building brands and marketing. Let's talk about this thing, brand marketing, right? Like, and you hear this all the time. Like, man, that's what's my brand? How do you approach that, Phipps, with us in a martial arts school?
Well, one thing that's been nice about my job is that we already had a very established brand, like when I started. So it's not like I didn't have to look at Easton as a problem of how do we create this brand. But now we have to talk about reinforcing the brand. And so number one, it's almost like what Jordan said, like we are in the people business, right? Like our product is martial arts, but also our product is how you feel when you walk into the academy. And so that comes down to a million different things. A lot of those are outside of my department, but a lot of it falls back into my department too. It falls into the front desk, right? When you walk into an Easton Academy, there's going to be someone at the front desk. If they don't know your name, they're going to ask your name, but they're going to smile when they see you. And after you become someone who is training frequently 2 or 3 or more times per week, they're going to know you. It's kind of like, hey, Eliot, how are you doing today? They're going to know what classes you're there for, and they're going to kind of understand your schedule. So right away, that's your first like connection with Easton. And then it's going to be the same thing when you meet your coach, right? Whoever your coach is, as long as you are there frequently, they're going to know your name. They're going to ask how you're doing. They're going to know this technique that you've been working on for the past month and a half. And when you finally hit it right, they're going to be like, hell yeah. Like, look, you've just been training that And now you finally hit it. So it's the connection that we make. And then that connection goes even further. Like, how can we communicate that online? Through our emails that we send. Some of our most popular blogs are blogs that we do about the people in the community, where we just pick a community member. We ask them about their life, a lot of it, and then how that connects to martial arts. And then we share that with everybody. And statistically, those are the blogs that get the most plays, the most shares, the most reads. Same thing on social media, sharing people's success, sharing the academy's success. And then in the end, we're always talking about bringing it back, right? Like, the martial arts is an individual journey, but you are on this journey with a lot of other people. So anytime someone goes out and competes and has success, we love to highlight that. Anytime the academy, something new happens with the academy, like Littleton is about to open a brand new space. They're about to triple the size of the academy. And that's something that we as a company, like, we celebrate that success because it's all of our success. Even if you don't train at Littleton, you play a part in that. So there's a lot that goes into it, but really our brand is community, and it's our job on the marketing side to make sure that we're always reinforcing that no matter what channel you come across.
What would you say the brand is, Jordan?
The brand of Easton.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the way I like to think about it is like an identity, like, who are you? And when it comes to a company, I think that brand is the word that we choose to express that identity. But I think a brand is encompassing not only of your culture, your values, but I think it also extends to your aesthetic and your presentation. And I think that's a big part of it as well. It's all of the things Phipps said, and that as well. I think how your classes are structured, how the instructors stand, their uniforms, what the students are wearing, how they conduct themselves, bowing on and off the mats. Like, these are all, we think of these things as culture, but I also think that's part of the brand as well, because it's part of who you are as a company. And when we're talking about who we are, we're talking about our identity, we're talking about our brand.
It's really interesting. I liked how you said that, because people ask me a lot. I get this question a lot on an individual level. Like, man, I'm trying to fix my life. Like, I want to be better, and yada 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 yada. And the first question I asked them, I was like, well, who are you?
Yeah.
Right? Like, who are you? And they're like, well, I'm Eliot. I'm like, oh, that's just a fucking name that two other people with a name gave you.
Right. It's a label.
Yeah, right. Who are you, though? What does it mean when you say, okay, you're Eliot or Jordan or Mike? What the fuck does that mean? So your brand is that. Now, your brand is not your values.
Right.
Your brand, your values are your values. They're different things, and we've talked about values a lot, right? But who you are is not your values.
Yeah, I think it's your behavior, your actions,
it's what
day
you
in,
do.
day out.
That's what I was going to say. It is not your values, but it is how you express your values.
Yes. Values are important, right? That you have to have them. You know, you must have them, but it is all about what you do,
right?
It's all about what you do.
It reminds me of the book Atomic Habits, which isn't a book about branding,
right?
But one of the key takeaways I remember from reading that book was he talked about how habit creation is identity creation, right? Like, if you want to build new habits for yourself, new actions, new behaviors, you start with, who do you want to be? And what does that person do, right? So it's like, you don't say, okay, well, I want to go to the gym 3 times a week. You say, no, I want to be a healthy, competitive athlete. Well, what does a healthy, competitive athlete do? They go to the gym 3 times a week. So then when you are going to the gym, right, you're not just simply meeting some goal, you are reinforcing your identity, right?
It's one level. Sorry,
I was like, come closer.
It's one level up on the ring of the why, right? Like your example of going to the gym.
Yeah,
going to the gym is a level, right? I want to be someone that goes to the gym. Well, why the fuck do you want to be someone that goes to the gym? You want to, I mean, even if it's a shitty reason, you want girls to look at you. Right. It's still one more level up than I want to go to the gym. you know?
Right.
So that's part of what it is. So who are you as a jiu-jitsu school, as a Muay Thai school? Now, Atos' brand is way different than ours.
Correct.
Yes.
Atos is a competitive jiu-jitsu school.
Yes.
AOJ has a mix.
Right.
You know, AOJ has a mix. They have this the probably
Very strong brand.
very
strong
strong
identity.
brand.
Yeah.
They don't, and one of the things you said up in there, Jordan, was they don't even open a school that doesn't look a certain way. You know, and we're moving in that direction. Like our schools look a certain way, and that's part of the brand. Phipps, back to you with this a little bit. How do you start to express that online? And one of the things you said was blogging. It's so important for so many reasons. Can you talk about blogging a little bit?
Yeah, well,
Because when I think about blogging, I think about fucking soccer moms and their recipes and their kumbaya, and that is not what having a blog is about.
yeah. So, I mean, this is something that it's said so much in marketing that it's almost a cliche, but marketing is storytelling. You are trying to tell the story of who you are, which is your brand. And blogging is just a way to do that, because your story is not it's not one cohesive story that you can tell from beginning to end. And like now everyone understands who you are. It's a bunch of micro stories. It's a bunch of things that are always happening all the time. And that is very specific to any business. It's going to be what is going on every single day. It's how are you impacting people? How do you communicate with people? How are you perceived by other people? So at a martial arts academy, like, you are having stories unfold every single day that if you're a coach, if you're an owner, you might not even realize those are unfolding on the
so
mats,
crazy.
right? Because everyone's experience is completely unique and individual, and you might not understand like how they're experiencing their school, but how they're experiencing your school is part of your story. So with blogs, we're just trying to tell that story in as many different ways as possible, because like I said, it's a million different micro stories that are making up this picture of who you are. And so we're doing it with, like I said before, we're interviewing people from all the different academies to just highlight like these people who have crazy lives outside of the academy. What brings you here? What keeps you coming back? Tell us more about your life story in general.
Go ahead.
And then there's more, right? Like martial arts is also wellness. So we produce a lot of wellness blogs. And this is something that, like, if you are just getting started as a martial arts academy, you might not be able to produce like every single thing, but you can focus on one aspect of this.
This is that was where when we had that little pause, I was like, where do you start? Like,
Yeah.
man, because we have I look, Easton has a Phipps. And Phipps doesn't even write the fucking blogs.
Nope.
We have blog writers, but this is not where we started.
Correct.
We started before you, and it was a higher like literally just asking students if they like anybody know how to write, and you know you get somebody, and then you're like, hey, we will discount your tuition. That's exactly literally where we started.
Yep.
We pay $50 a blog, right? So if you write 2 blogs, $100 a month, $100 off your membership.
Yep.
You know, and then it sucks for a while because they do it, and maybe they're not that great, right? But it builds and it builds and it builds, and you just you have to give them topics.
Yeah, I think this is part of that larger story of what's happening inside of your martial arts academy, whether it's Easton or someone else. You have all these people who come together because they're interested in jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai, but all of them have just completely unique skill sets, experiences. So it's something that every martial arts academy should be able to do, is just reach out to your base and say, hey, does anybody want to write a blog? Is anybody social media savvy? And you're going to find people who are either interested in doing that, who have experience in doing that, and you already have something that they want, which is a membership, right? And depending on what they're doing, how much time they have to dedicate to it per week or per month, you can decide what that discount on the membership should look like, but most people, if you're running your academy right, like your students are going to be excited to give back in some way, and you don't. I don't want to say it like, oh, you don't even have to pay them, because you are paying them by discounting their membership. But in a lot of situations, you're going to find people who are really happy to do a trade for their membership, and they're going to give you something like this.
Our social media director, Luma, she's still our social media director. Yep. She started with me. Like, I literally was like, man, just on Instagram, I was like, man, this girl Luma down in Castle Rock has great social media. And I wanted someone to help me with my social media and post, So I hired her personally. And then I was like, man, she's really fucking good. And then I called Mike and I was like, yo, Mike. And then we like brought her to Easton. Yeah. And like, but this is like, and that's just one person, a story I can fucking tell. Who's our biggest blog writer now?
It's still Tatiana.
But right? So I'm not trying to like toot my horn that I found somebody, right? Like, you probably found Toddy. Or no, she was Boulder first.
She was in Boulder.
Yeah.
And then she started working in Longmont.
But whatever it is, it's these weird things.
Right.
There's so many people in your community, is my point here, is that they're there. Right? They're there. And they're total. The hard part for us as martial arts instructors, a lot of times, is they're so different from us. I'm very alpha. I'm very loud. I'm very I've fought in the UFC, right? You have a fight camp coming. You're a little artsy. Never mind. No.
What the fuck?
You're a theater major. Yes, But and I think most people that have schools are these like, I'm a man a little more.
Yep.
Right. And so you got to look outside yourself. You got to look for, what is it? What does Joe Rogan call them? These nerd assassins.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. that are like, they're different, right? There's different people in your schools that have different, really good qualities about them. Stop looking for you. Luma's nothing like me.
Yeah.
Toddy's nothing like me, right? River's doing a great job now.
Yeah.
Right? He's nothing like me. You got to find these people as the owner of the school that can go out there and do these jobs that you're not good at.
Yeah.
Right?
And you need this too. And this is going to be hard for some people to accept, but not everyone's going to like you.
Right.
So you should find...
In your school.
Exactly. In your school. And you should find people who aren't like you to also bring in. And I talk about it with coaching a lot too. Like, not everyone's going to like my coaching style or me in general, but we have enough coaches in the Longmont striking department where like you will find a coach you like, someone who talks like you like to, be talked to, who coaches like you like to be coached, who runs a class like you like, and you can go to them and you're still going to learn great technique, because overall we're making sure that's still happening. But it doesn't have to be me, and it doesn't have to be Jordan or you. We have options, and you need to understand that when you're not just for coaches, but for every aspect of your school.
It's got to be part of your brand.
Yeah.
Like, the three of us have very little in common as far as like, you two maybe a little more than with me, of like, what we're into a little bit.
Sure.
But because we're friends, it helps other people who might be a little more like you. It might be a little more like you come in and be like, oh, maybe Eliot's okay. He's not my style. I don't like him. But if he's good with Phipps, and I really like Phipps, and Phipps really likes him, like, this is a big part of the brand again.
Yeah.
That when you're building a brand, and this is what a lot of people do, and this is what a lot of people, when they put it on their website, their social media, it looks just like them. Right? Their school brand looks like them. And it's just not the story you want to be telling, because then you're only speaking to people like you.
Yep.
Right, so and that's a great point, Phipps, that not everyone, I'm sure there's people that really don't like me at our school.
I think that's interesting what you said, that the school's brand looks just like them.
Yeah.
Because we talk a lot about core values, and we talk about how whether you've articulated your core values or not, your school has core values. Because if you don't define them, then they're going to be defined by the biggest personality running the school, right? And it might be, I've never thought about it this way, but it might be that when it comes to a brand, it's the same thing. Like, just because you haven't defined your brand doesn't mean that you don't have one. It's being expressed through your personality, and you may or may not be aware of that, and that may or may not be a good thing.
Most likely bad.
It might be. It might not be.
Might not be. Yeah.
It might not
if
be.
It's probably working.
Well, you might be a really good leader.
Yeah.
I mean, like, some people are really intuitive and they have a high moral compass, and they're good at this sort of thing. Yeah. Like, I think when you listen to the interviews with like Guy Mendez, like AOJ, right? Like, they figured out a lot of things correctly early on, and they don't know how they did it. Maybe they read books, maybe they learned from other people or whatever, but they're like, yeah, I'm not really sure, but we just figured out that this was necessary, and this is what we did. And you see the byproducts of that, I think there are people like that, but I think that is those are anomalies, not the norm.
I'm quiet because I'm thinking about it. Like, the people who really, really do well, you think they're like that just... Explain that more.
There's...
yeah.
Well, no, I think that there's a lot of jujitsu that you do really well, and you may not be aware of how well you're doing it because you've just never articulated it. Yeah. Right? So there can be... Because look, if you run a school
with Drew the other day,
and you haven't defined your brand, you haven't defined your core values, that doesn't mean you're a bad leader,
right?
Or that you're bad at creating culture,
right? It
just means that you haven't articulated what you do well.
I see what you're saying now. Yes, Drew's having this issue, and I'm teaching it correctly, right? I'm not teaching him wrong, but there's something missing. So I trained with him the other night, and this is what you're saying on a brand perspective and culture perspective. So I trained with him the other night, and I figured it all out. I'm like, but you just gotta keep the off balance going. Like, you're trying to do the thing. Like, sometimes you gotta go the other way to get the other way. But you can't. When you drill it, you can't teach that kind of stuff, right? You gotta feel them. Be like, hey man, this, that, then this. And you're saying the same thing here, right? Like, you're not like, I wasn't aware of what was going on. Yeah. I do it right. When I'm training, I off balance all these different directions to get this motion going. Right. And then it's correct. Right. It's the same thing that we're doing with our schools. Maybe you're doing a really good job. Eliot's doing jiu-jitsu right. Eliot's running his school well. Is it random? Because I'm just figuring it out, or are you following some things? So you need to start following some things if you really want to start building a brand. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, you have to put attention to what it is that you're doing well and articulate it if you want to grow beyond yourself. Like, if you want to maintain a strong culture and brand for your school, for your academy, and you haven't defined it, like, if you want to step away, right? If you don't want to be the center of everything that you're doing. If you want to be able to step away and give that platform to others and grow, it has to be defined. Otherwise, they are going to interpret what they think it's supposed to be, and then they are going to express it through themselves, and it may or may not align with what you're saying. Like, this is something that we face at Easton at scale all the time, right? But if you're just an individual school owner and you're running one school, it still happens on a micro scale,
Like, your classes start to not look different, and you don't want that.
Sure.
Right. You want every teacher to have their own identity.
Right.
But it still has to feel like John Smith's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school, right? Whatever your name is. Like, you want that to be true. Yeah. You don't want it to be like over here and over there, and this guy teaches. Like that is not a. We had that in Denver, for example. Right. Like, when I first retired, there was a different advanced class teacher every night. So the students got like tough, but they didn't get good, They because it was impossible because they're not learning the same shit. It had no brand to it. Yeah. Even though it was kind of an individual. it definitely was an individual school. It was an Easton school, but we weren't together at all.
Totally.
Right? You know? So that's what you're saying here, right? Is like you even if it's one school, you want a brand to it.
Yes, absolutely.
Go ahead, Phipps. You look like you're going to say something.
No.
Okay.
No,
so we talked about blogging. Okay. What else do we do on the brand end, on the marketing end, to tell this story?
Well, I think anytime that you're going to start down this path of like you want your identity to be evident to anybody who's going to come to your school, you have to be in control of your channels, like the channels of communication that you have with your members or with people who, again, are interested in your school. So for us, we have really 4 main channels. We have our email channel. We have our social media channel. We are now starting a texting channel as well. So we can text our members about, anything really, events, seminars, new products, whatever it is. And then our 4th channel is the academy itself, right? And there's a lot of different ways that things are communicated in the academy, but one of the biggest ways is announcements after class, right? Super important for the same stuff that we would send an email about: upcoming events, initiatives, product launches, all these things. So you need to be in control. You need to know, how do you communicate with people, and narrow those down to, these are our channels. Once you have the channels down, that's when you can really start saying, like, how do we reinforce our identity throughout all of these channels, right? If you're working on your blogs, right, and you're going to be telling stories through your blogs, if you just post your blogs on your website and you don't let people know about them, then they're not going to be very effective, right? You should make a social media post about your blogs. You should send an email about your blogs whenever they're published. It's just a little blurb. It doesn't need to be like, hey, new blog, check it out. But like, what is in the blog?
Let's make sure let's go back to the blogging here for a second. Blogging really helps with SEO, right? It really boosts your organic ranking on Google. And what you want to do is you want to be in that top spot. Right? You want to be in that top spot. You don't want to not be on the top spot. You better be at least number 2. Okay? That is a lot based on how many people link back to your website, right? How many people are going to your website on a daily basis, not the paid ones, right? So if you write a blog and no one goes to it, it does fucking nothing. Okay? So when you write a blog, you want people to go to said blog. So therefore, if you want people to go to it, you have to tell them about it. And if you don't tell them about it, they won't be going to it. So make sure you use your other channels that Phipps just talked about to always link back to the other channels, the blog, the YouTube, the web, wherever you want them to go.
Yeah, and that's a really great point. Through all of our communication channels, except for maybe the In Academy, we're generally trying to push you to our website, right? The more people that visit our website, the more it will organically boost our search rankings. So everything is going back to the website. Like, if you're going to sign up for a seminar, it's going to be on the website. If you're going to buy a product, anything. So that's going to be number 1. Like, I don't consider the website to be a communication channel because it's not outgoing. The website is for incoming information. It's more of like a hub. You can think about your website as kind of, if you're doing it right, it should be like the storefront of your academy, but online,
right?
So yeah. What was the question?
I don't know. We talked. What were you saying?
We were talking about branding.
Yeah. I was like, the channel. We were talking about the channels.
Yeah, and the channels. Yeah. So, again, like, you're reinforcing this identity that you've created through your channels. You have to understand what makes sense. We're not going to make an announcement after class like, hey, guys, and a new blog came out. We're not going to send a text message about the new blog. So what is appropriate to communicate via text, via announcements, and then blogs, social media, emails. So those are your 2 biggest, I think, ways to communicate to the most amount of people is through your emails and your social media. Obviously, like, if I give an announcement after class, I can only announce to the people who are in my class. It could be 8 people, could be 20 people. It's a very small selection. Whereas if we send an email out, our email list is something like, 8,000 people, 9,000 people. So we're blasting it to everybody. And these are leads. These are members. So we have a much wider net to cast.
Right.
So you have to think about that and prioritize the channels. But coming back to just branding, understand your channels, and then communicate your brand through those channels. And the Easton brand, community, people-oriented, welcoming. So it's the voice that we approach these things with as well, right?
Yeah.
If we're sending an email, something like, hey, motherfuckers, here's a fucking email. Maybe that's your brand, but that's not how we talk to people.
Look, don't chat GPT it.
Do not chat GPT.
You can chat GPT, like us, for example.
Or maybe you're so bad you need to chat GPT. That is a possibility.
Look, I started. We have to send an email campaign out. Mm-hmm. I started it on Chat GPT. Mm-hmm. Like I put all of my parameters in of, and you're laughing at me now, Phipps. I can see.
No, I'm not laughing.
Okay, of like, hey, this email list, this company, right? Because the way Chat GPT, it already knows the company I'm talking about, right? Because it remembers. Mm-hmm. But then I start being like, hey, this and this, and like you start putting parameters in, and it spits out some shit. And then I give it away. I'm not going to fucking do it. Like I put it in the email. I put it in our drive, and now it's yours.
Yeah.
And you said, and you said it here a second ago, and you said it in our meeting on Wednesday, I'm going to put it in our voice. Mm-hmm. When you say that, what does that mean? So
your voice is your brand. Like these are two things. Your brand is your identity. Your voice is your identity in the way you communicate, right? So, how are you presenting yourself to people? Mm-hmm. Well, that's all going to be through, if it's written communication, the way you write it out. If it's the announcements, if it's something that needs to be spoken, it's how do you speak to people? How do you show up when you're talking to people? And everyone's voice is going to be different. And we talk about Easton.Online and Easton Training Center. They're two different voices, yes, right?
Yes.
And that's
we're speaking to two different people.
Two different people, exactly. And that's something that we have Tatiana, who writes blogs and emails for Easton.Online. She does it for Easton TC. And she, when I'm working with her, when I'm editing her work, we're always like trying to balance this, because she'll bring the Easton TC voice to Easton.Online. I'm like, that's not how we're talking to these people. We're gonna come a little bit more straightforward. We're gonna be a little bit more authoritative, where everything from Easton TC is like, hey, let us help you. Like, let us show you this. Like, hey, you're welcome here. And at Easton.Online, it's more like, this is how we do things. This is how you should do things, or at least you should approach these
we have to, from one, we're like, hey, come check us out, mm-hmm. right? Come, we're welcoming. From the other, we have to be the authority.
That's exactly
right.
It. Yes.
And that's the voice of Easton.Online is authority. We
Correct.
know what we're doing. This is what works for us. If you want help, come fucking talk to us.
Yep.
With Easton TC, it's like, hey, we're for everyone, mm-hmm. right? If you want to, it was funny at Bo's wedding last night, the maid of honor was giving her speech, and she's like, yeah, Esther all the way through, that's his wife's name, Esther all the way through college wanted to learn how to fight, and we were all like, what are you talking, but Easton was welcoming enough to have a Korean girl, not, a little shyer, come into Easton. If we were like, yo, we're going to teach you how to fucking fight, with our messaging at Easton, because we're the authority, you don't get the Esther.
Yeah. And this is something that a lot of people listen to that and they'll be like, well, I want to be the authority. But that's okay. Yeah. That's your brand. That's your voice. Just make sure that it is always synced up. Right? Like, you don't want to be presenting your brand one way and then speaking in another way, because anytime that these two things aren't in synchronization, people are going to be really turned off.
Right. Or not even turned off, they get confused.
Not like they're going to like actively turned off, but when you confuse people with your voice and your brand, then they're going to naturally not be pulled toward you. They stop paying attention. They go somewhere else where things are cohesive and things make sense.
Right. And I don't think they notice that they stop paying attention.
That it's completely subconscious.
Right. They leave your website. Mm-hmm. And that's the last thing you want. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, you want them to stay on your website, you want them to scroll down your social media feeds, mm-hmm. right? You want them to read all your blogs, right? And this is what you want. But the second you get confusing, they bounce.
Yep.
They bounce. Mm-hmm. And that's a really hard thing for people to understand. I do want to talk about this authority thing. If you're gonna present as the authority, as a martial arts school, you better be fucking great. Like Roger Gracie.
Right.
You know, like Gordon, like AOJ, like Atos.
Right.
You better have some actual world titles to your name, or have created multiple world champions, because that is what you're going to attract to. And if you cannot provide that, then it's terrible, right?
Yeah.
And it's a very hard thing to provide.
Yeah.
Right. It's a very hard thing to provide. Whereas if you do this, like, come try it, come be part of the community thing, you're going to get some world champions, because you're going to invite so many people in the door.
Yeah. What do you want from your school? That's what it comes down to. No matter what, even if you are you're presenting as an authority and you're great at it and you are producing world champions, it's still a very small amount of people that are going to be interested in training with you, and that is okay if that's what you want from your school. Yeah. If you want to teach every class, if you want to kind of cap the amount of income you can make, that is okay.
I think one of the beautiful things about this new curriculum that we just launched is that's the first pieces of it. Like, in the curriculum, what do you fucking want with your life? And I think a lot of people mess this up when they're talking about their school and their brand and all this stuff. Like, what do you want? Like, if what you want is to come in at 4 and then leave at 8, that's totally fine. We can, we have the stuff to help you with that too.
Yeah.
But if you're not clear on what you want, you're definitely going to confuse your people. Right? You're definitely going to confuse your people. So, like, I know what I want out of my life. Amal knows what he wants out of his life. We're the owners. And then it goes back. Mike knows what he wants out of his life. Right? Mike wants to run, but he wasn't able to make that happen right away. He's able to make it happen now as we grow and scale and work. Amal and I were able to make it happen with work and scale. But you got to fucking point at something. Right? It was a great point, Phipps. In your life, what do I want? And then it goes to your school. Right? And then it goes to your school.
Absolutely.
I want to come back to the ChatGPT thing really quick, because I got a nugget here. So you said don't ChatGPT these blogs, right? Because it's got to be in your voice within your brand, right?
Most people probably should. You're right.
Right. But no, here's the thing. Here, I want to drop a nugget of how I think people can use AI and ChatGPT.
And let's be clear, we use AI.
Right? Oh, yeah, for sure. No, I've started using it extensively. But what I've learned about it is that you can define a persona, an identity, a brand for ChatGPT.
Yes.
It's actually really good at this. And 400 words is the optimal prompt, right? If you can define your persona and your brand. So for example, I use one as the kids' martial arts director, right? So anytime if I need to write long form content, right? I always start off with a prompt. I'm a kids martial arts director at Easton Training Center. We have 8 schools. These are our core values. These are our principles. This is the kind of person that I am. This is how I speak, right? You can define all these parameters and then say, now, using this persona, write me an article that talks about these 3 bullet points, right? And then it will output an interpretation of what it thinks your voice is. And if it doesn't match up, then you can tweak that persona. And then you can save it. You can save it and you can use it over and over and over again, right? Now, I think the final draft, the final thing that goes on a website needs to be combed through by a human. And you need to make the final tweaks. You don't go straight from the prompt and whatever it outputs to something that you're going to send out.
Unless you're me.
Yeah, you may be, totally. But, I think that there's a lot of applications for this, especially for martial arts schools. I think about how for our front desk staff, we could define persona and prompts that fit within our customer service goals, so that when new employees who don't have experience responding to angry customers, right? How to do that in a tactful, diplomatic way. It can almost be customer service training for that staff to have to take that email, go into AI with a prompt, right? That is predefined by leadership, and then see the output, that will make them a better writer, like a better employee, to be able to see what they should have said. You know, there's a lot of different ways that this can be. It's a whole separate podcast, but we mentioned it, and I was like, man, this is cool. This is cool. Here's a little nugget here, just to plant a seed in people's brains that like there's some pretty cool applications here.
Yes. Yeah. You should have a discussion with ChatGPT on like Alex likes to do this, like philosophical topics.
Sure.
He argues with ChatGPT, like does
right.
Like debates, and like it's ingenious. Chat, it's really it makes logos now. I didn't know that. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is my brand.
Oh, all of the kids patches, the seasons that we've been doing it.
That was all.
We've been hiring Phil to do it, but he has been using ChatGPT to design all that artwork.
Yeah.
Right. And there's something to be said here. Like, I tried to generate the same art, couldn't do it.
Right.
Because I don't have the knowledge or the chops, the background to know how to communicate and collaborate with AI to get those results.
Right.
Because I think a lot of times we think as AI is replacing things, but I think of it as collaboration.
Yeah, imagine, I know we're way off topic here. Imagine if you're a fucking guy who makes logos, and rather than you have to do it all from the beginning, you just tell the AI to do it. You can charge the same fucking price, right? You can just, like, in the time that it took you to spit out one logo, you can now spit out 10, because you're skipping all of the beginning steps.
Right. It's a big discussion, but there's just a lot of applications, martial arts, it's not big tech.
No.
So it's like finding ways to be efficient with your resources. It can be beneficial.
Yeah. All right, guys, it's good talk.
Yeah.
He's not on Instagram, Mike Phipps, at Fire Marshal 205, at _ Eliot Marshall. I started another one. Yes, that is me too. Go follow my kids. They're fucking hooping now. We are at Easton.Online. We have our new curriculum out. It's literally the fucking price of one member a month. If you and I said this in our ad, I was intense in our ad. I got people liked. I got a lot of like, yo, Eliot, that's a great ad. If you can't get one more member a month because of the curriculum, you suck. Close your doors. You suck. Like, you shouldn't be in business.
You'll make your money.
You'll make your money back is what I'm trying to say. Maybe Phipps will edit that out too. But yeah, man, like it has over 100 hours of content, downloadable PDFs, ways to take you through like where are you currently. It has this whole first section of talking about like, yo, what the hell do you actually want? Making sure you're really clear on your personal values, your personal principles, things like that, because they have to match up. Right? They have to match up. I cannot be, for example, one of Easton's major core values is excellence. I am a believer in chasing excellence. I did it. I want I force my kids to fucking do it. I can't be like some dude that sits on the couch with a mediocre doing nothing and have have a company that I own not, right? Like, it's impossible. They have to match up. So all of that is in there. It literally, you don't even have to talk to us to buy it. It's on the site. Right? It's on the site. Go to it. And if it sucks for you, it's $199. You'll be all right.
Yep.
That's it, guys. Have a good day.